Welcome back, my sexy faggots. Are you ready for part 3 of myself going to Drew Pickles the Dark's hometown? If you were able to withstand the over 30 minutes of the first 2 parts and still find them swell, and also clicked on this video, then I think that is probably a yes. Anyway, when last we left off I had just visited Drew Pickles the Dark's childhood house and raped whoever the current occupant is, assuming it's a male. So now we are going to head to the right next. There are a few paths to get where he is going, which is the second rotary, so he is going to have me visit relevant things in those roads before swelliporting me back here, then taking Maple Street all the way to the second rotary. Before I head out, however, I will first need to take a piss, so I will piss in the storm drain out front of the house like Drew Pickles the Dark would pour things like flat soda and old milk down here, since it was much more fun than pouring them down the regular drain inside the house. And he remembers one really bad hurricane, that was Hurricane Bertha in the mid-90s. The storm drain was shooting up water and looked like a fountain. Spebag, what a swell piss. Next I will move to his next door neighbor's house, which were kind of assholes, but less so than the ones in the other side, which I will get back to after swelliporting back to his house. The husband was a big shot in the town government, the wife was a lunch lady at Drew Pickles the Dark's elementary school, the older son was a cop, and the younger son was an annoying shit. You might think I would go in and rape the men and beat the wife. However, a friend of Drew Pickles the Dark's mother said they moved away a few years ago, so I will just rape whoever the current occupants are. Like, honestly, these neighbors were not malicious or anything, and never actually did anything mean to Drew Pickles the Dark. It's just they would always bitch about Drew Pickles the Dark's mother's yard and shit like that, and were nosy and acted holier than thou. Though being neighbors with a big shot for the town had some benefits. Drew Pickles the Dark's mother would just say who her neighbor was if the town gave her shit about something, and they would usually stop. Basically they were the stereotypical assholes. They had 2 dogs Drew Pickles the Dark liked. One was really nice, and the other was batshit insane when fenced in, but instantly became super nice if she ever escaped. Amusingly, one of the people who lived around here told Drew Pickles the Dark's mother that these neighbors admitted, after she moved away, that she was the best neighbor they ever had, since the ones who moved in after were loud and annoying. One of those cases of not knowing how good you had it, until, after you lose it. Obligatory woman smacking comment smack bag. That was swell. Next I will travel down Maple Street towards Queen Sewell Park, which, unlike Pump's Pond, Drew Pickles the Dark always knew was the name, since there was a sign out front. While I will not go into detail about the other houses in the road, Drew Pickles the Dark will at least give brief comments. The first house in the right is where Travis lived, who was a couple grades older than Drew Pickles the Dark, so they never did much together. Oh, it was funny, one year Travis dyed his hair and it pissed off his father really bad. The first house in the left is where Brent lived, who was also a couple years older than Drew Pickles the Dark, though they probably did more than Travis, as sometimes they went to the park together and shared a bus stop during middle school, and whose father I just noticed is outside raking leaves, so I will give him a quick fuck like that bag. That was swell. And finally, at one of the houses at the end of the street lived Michelle. What the fuck? Why the fuck are there so many Michelles to talk about? This is the third now. But anyway, Drew Pickles the Dark never did anything with her, since she was 4 years older, and they were never in the same school, and being a girl had different interests. Though he remembers her watching his mom garden and asking questions a few times. After that I will reach the end of the street to the park entrance, which also doubled as the middle school bus stop. The fence gates being spread open will remind me of a gay man spreading his ass cheeks for my cock, so I will proceed to have sex with the fence like Drew Pickles the Dark actually remembers when they put up the playground at this park, which was like 1994 or maybe 1995. Before that it was only benches, swings, and the baseball field. Drew Pickles the Dark's mother said, as a kid she would play at this park, since there was a shortcut to it from her house. Drew Pickles the Dark didn't come here all the time, not counting waiting for the bus, since kids played all over the area, not just the park. Plus he is also kind of an introvert and played video games inside a lot as well. That was swell. Now, it's time for me to get a little pissed off. You see those trees to the left? Well, behind them there used to be a path to the park tennis courts, and also an area that was a skateboard park some kids made in the 90s. Then the town took down, probably for stupid legalese liability reasons, as well as a tunnel that went under the bypass that Group Pickles the Dark thought was really cool to walk through as a kid, and was also the first time he ever saw a swastika, since it was graffitied in the tunnel wall. But none of that is what is pissing me off. What is actually pissing me off is that they tore down all those trees to put in a road that leads to the new police station they built over the tennis courts and where that old skate park was. It's just the Google Street View, for this area hasn't updated yet, and Group Pickles the Dark's stepfather says it looks ugly now. Because Group Pickles the Dark is autistic and drastic changes trigger him, I will proceed to choke my chicken like I think a satellite view marking things would be more useful since the satellite view is more up to date and has the new police station in it. Group Pickles the Dark always wondered what the inside of the armory looked like. From a logical standpoint, it makes sense to put the police station here with an easy access road to the residential area. But you would think they would at least keep the trees that weren't in the way of the new road. I think it's about time to pay the new police station a visit. Bag. That was swell. I will walk up the new road to the police station, which can be seen from the street view of the bypass thankfully, and walk into it. I will see all the cops doing shit like eating donuts and drinking coffee and filing paperwork out and other shit. I will proceed to whip out my cock and the cops will look at me with a disgusted look and go to arrest me for indecent exposure, when I will use my homosexual cat-like reflexes to dodge them and then begin fucking all the dog bots like Actually the police of this town were not that bad, so this is mostly just Group Pickles the Dark pissed off they installed an ugly road. Looking at the satellite view, it seems the town set up a skate park, basketball court, a large and small baseball field, and playground out back of the town community center. When Group Pickles the Dark was a kid, it was just an empty field. Of the places Group Pickles the Dark lived, this one had the least corrupt police force. The Blue Lives Matter is as retarded a fucking movement as Black Lives Matter. Fuck zog bots and inner city fuck niggers. Okay, Group Pickles the Dark apologizes for saying a political comment. Let's get back to wholesome childhood memories. Cop actually worked at the schools. But since this town was very low crime, he mostly topped that stupid DARE program and just kind of hung around otherwise. Though one time he did arrest a high schooler for smoking pot. The cop's daughter was in Group Pickles the Dark's classes. She was kind of dopey looking, but when Group Pickles the Dark was looking through his town archives at the class of 2008 yearbook, which would have been the one he was in had he not moved, her senior picture looked really hot. Bag. That was swell. After dealing with the police, I will head back to the entrance of Queen Sewell Park and turn left and continue down Cranberry Road. Eventually I will reach the intersection of Cranberry Road and Birch Street and turn left onto Birch Street. Not much was interesting here, at least, for Group Pickles the Dark, since he doesn't remember any kids living on this street. I will however stop at the house that one of Group Pickles the Dark's mother's cats basically moved into, so she just let the people who live there keep the cat, since the cat was super friendly with them. Group Pickles the Dark literally knows nothing else about this house besides that, so I will just use the tree in the front yard as a dildo like bag. That was swell. Then go back to the Cranberry Road Birch Street intersection. After returning I will continue up Cranberry Road until I reach the intersection with Keenan Road. Keenan Road was another that ended in a cul-de-sac, but this one was special, since this is where the girl Group Pickles the Dark was absolutely crazy about lived. However, there was also a girl here Group Pickles the Dark absolutely hated that lived here named Joanna. There was also a pretty cool kid too, whose name Group Pickles the Dark wants to say is Kyle, but he's only like 80% sure on that, who always thought it was funny when Group Pickles the Dark shit-talked Joanna. Amusingly, Group Pickles the Dark's mother also went to school with both girls' fathers when she was young, and ended up dating the father of the girl. Group Pickles the Dark was crazy, for after divorcing his first stepfather who was an asshole and cheated in her. As for the father of the girl Group Pickles the Dark was crazy about, his wife died, and daughters moved out, so he returned to the dating scene, so they had a relationship for like a year or so. Damn, it would have been super awkward for Drew Pickles the Dark if they had gotten together, but I digress. I need to get back on track, as I have probably already embarrassed Drew Pickles the Dark enough, but he's dedicated to this video so he doesn't give a flying dildo. Anyway, I will go down the road into the middle of the cul-de-sac and proceed to rip off all of my clothes and spin in my head like a top and perform my famous sprinkler act like the centripetal force from my spinning is causing my piss to get all over everyone's houses. Bag, that was swell. Pretty soon the residents of said houses will come out with extremely pissed off faces and call me a sick fuck, and that they will call the police, and I will say not a chance to pee pants, and then begin to rape all of the men like even if you called the police, I already raped all of them so they couldn't do anything, not that they could do anything to me anyway, smacking the females together like smack 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 smack. Drew Pickles the Dark thinks this was the house of the girl he liked, but he's not 100% sure. Smack 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 bag, that was swell. Since there is nothing else interesting for Drew Pickles the Dark further down Cranberry Road, or also Edith Avenue, I will swelleport back to Drew Pickles the Dark's house like swell and then decide to go to his other next door neighbors, which were way bigger assholes than the ones from before. The neighbors in the other side were this really old couple who always bitched about Drew Pickles the Dark's mother, and also hated when her cat snuck into their basement, which Drew Pickles the Dark thinks isn't actually that unreasonable, but what is, when you board up the basement so they can no longer do it, then get a rodent infestation, then bitch to his mother about said infestation. Like what the fuck? Why would you block the thing keeping rodents in check, then bitch about them? Regardless, they eventually listened to Drew Pickles the Dark's mother and opened their basement back up and the rodents went away. Surprise surprise. But that was just a memorable story, not the real reason they were assholes. The reason they were assholes is, since they spread rumors and gossiped and other such things, and unlike the other neighbors who were at least nice to Drew Pickles the Dark, weren't even nice to him either, yelling at him and shit, even though he never trespassed or did property damage or anything like that. Anyway, I will rape the husband like these people might not live here anymore. In fact, they were pretty old so they might not even be alive now. The bad next door neighbors, these were way worse of the two. Smacking the wife like smack 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 bag, that was swell. I will turn to across the street and go to the house of a friend of Drew Pickles the Dark named Patrick, who was one grade lower than him. Drew Pickles the Dark would play with him outside and such, but never actually visited inside his house though. Instead of more time-wasting dialogue, I'll just rate the current occupants, assuming they are male. Like Drew Pickles the Dark liked one Halloween, when Pokemania was going on, Patrick's mom gave out Pokemon cards instead of candy. However, he was also jealous that he got a shitty Tentacle and his sister got a Golem. But since she didn't know anything about Pokemon, he convinced her to trade, which I guess is sort of scummy, but oh well, can't help what happened 23 years ago. Obligatory woman smacking comment smack 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 bag, that was swell. After that I will travel a ways down Maple Street, until I reach Jessica's house. That's right, the Jessica Drew Pickles the Dark mentioned from earlier, who he didn't like. I will knockety knock knock in the door and the current occupants will say hello, can I help you? I will say yes, I will have a shit burger with extra cum sauce, a side of edible dildo fries fried in piss, as well as a medium diet urine to drink. The people will stare at me with a disgusted look and ask, excuse me, but what the fuck did you just say? I will say, oh sorry, it's just, when you asked if you could help me, it triggered my instincts of when a pimply-faced cashier asks me that when I go to a fast food establishment, and it's just conditioning for me to say a disgusting order like that. They will still look confused and disgusted, so I will just rape any males like Drew Pickles the Dark doesn't even have a good reason for disliking Jessica. It was mostly since she was friends with Joanna from earlier, but he thought it was super swell when his friend kept Jessica's house one mischief night. Drew Pickles the Dark always wished to go out on mischief night, but lost too big of a pussy. Smacking any women like smack 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 bag, that was swell. After that I will head to the Maple Street Cypress Street intersection. To the left is a cul-de-sac which, when Drew Pickles the Dark was a kid, didn't know was up there, but he was always curious, since he passed this road like every fucking day for the better part of a decade straight, but never knew what was down it. So I will take a trip on his behalf, and when I reach the cul-de-sac, go in the middle and point my ass in the air and take the biggest nastiest diarrhea dump like peg that was swell, and my shit will rain everywhere and increase the swellness of the area by over 69,000%. Because this video is already getting dragged out, nobody will have been home to witness my swell shenanigans, and thus be unable to call me a sick fuck and get raped, so I will just head back on down to Maple Street and continue down that. Because there is nothing to stand out about the rest of the street, I will proceed to keep my mind occupied by masturbating, as I walk down the street like this was usually the street Drew Pickles the Dark walked down when the after-school bus dropped him off at the other bus stop, which we will see at the end of the street. He also walked down here frequently with his mother, since they were poor and usually walked places to save money on gas, and this was the path you went if you needed to walk anywhere on East Main Street. Coming all over everything. Where the street intersects with Cypress Street, there was a house with a really swell friendly dog Drew Pickles the Dark liked to say hi to when he was walking home after detention. Raping all the male residents staying at the motel like sometimes street vendors or something like that would set up shop out front of here for a few days during the summer. This place always looked kind of shitty, at least for all of Drew Pickles the Dark's life. That was swell. Finally, when I reach the end of Maple Street, which intersects with head of the Bay Road, which is also the other after-school bus stop, and the one Drew Pickles the Dark more often used. To the right is the East Rotary, which is where this video is going to end. However, first I will take a brief detour to the left to visit the friend of Drew Pickles the Dark's who keep Big Jessica's house. When I get to said friend's house, my boner will rip out of my pants, as his last name was Cummings, which of course makes me super horny, and I will grab my boner and start swinging it around and knocking over the trees like a lumberjack like This is why Drew Pickles the Dark didn't say his first name, because his last name was too swell to pass up in a Drew Pickles video. Actually, this friend was quite the troublemaker. He got arrested in 3rd grade for breaking into an abandoned Burger King and shoplifted from Ocean State job lots and also got in fights a lot. Though he wasn't malicious and would beat the shit out of people who picked on the weaker kids. Bag, that was swell. After deforesting this entire section of head of the Bay Road, I will turn around and head back to the Rotary. Well, this seems like a swell place to break, and next up we will be taking a look at the daycare Drew Pickles the Dark went to, the house of his best friend in elementary school and still a good friend even later, the town hall, which will function as the manager's office of this video, and several establishments in Main Street, before looping back to the Worth-on-Bourne border bridge. Or maybe it will be split in two. Drew Pickles the Dark isn't sure quite yet, but he feels this is getting kind of redundant, so we will see. Anyway, until next time my sexy faggots.